let's sort of set the stage. In early June 95, Bischoff meets with Ted Turner in what has become one of the more famous Bischoff stories ever. This meeting apparently was ran by a name wrestling fans would hear a lot more of in the years to come, Mr. Harvey Schiller. And as a result of that meeting, Ted gives WCW a slot on TNT to present WCW opposing a WWF Monday Night Raw program on USA. So this is a big deal. And the announcement isn't made public for about a week. And according to the dirt sheets, as they say, Vince McMahon is part of the reason this comes about, because he had been sending Ted Turner letters urging him to fold WCW, claiming it was an embarrassment to Turner's good name. And keep in mind, around the same time, Vince is running Nacho Man and Huckster segments on his program, poking fun at WCW. Well, apparently, old Ted's had enough, and he's decided that rather than fold, he wants to compete. So, Tony, were you in this now infamous meeting with Bischoff and Schiller and Turner?
No, I was not in the meeting, but I knew Harvey Schiller quite well and did not really know Ted. But here's the problem I have with that story. Were reports that Ted was really ready to close the company prior to that?
No, not at all.
Was he taking these letters seriously from Vince McMahon?
He was annoyed, I believe, by the Billionaire Ted skits, the Nacho Man and the Huckster skits, and then the letters from Vince saying, just go ahead and close up shop. I think all of that, coupled with Bischoff maybe saying, hey, I can't compete because they've got prime time and I've got Saturday afternoon. Of course they're going to win. I think that kind of lent itself to Ted saying, you know what, screw it, let's just double down. At least that's the narrative that's been painted. But you don't believe that to be true?
Well, I believe that. I believe two things here. I believe when Eric took over the company, and I've used this before, and it's a well-worn term that people are probably freaking tired of, but I always thought Eric had a vision of making it bigger. And I always thought that Ted Turner loved wrestling so much and loved what wrestling had done to his company that he was always on board with whatever idea, or not necessarily on board, but would always listen to whatever idea we would have to make it bigger and better. So I think it was a combination of those two. I'm not so sure that the letters by Vince had anything to do with it.
Do you remember hearing?
It could have helped him change his mind. Are those letters from Vince legit?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, that's something that comes straight from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I happen to believe more than I don't out of there. Bruce, on the other hand, thinks most of it is more fiction than fact. What say you? Had you heard about these letters ever before?
No, I had not. And some of the things that are on the quote-unquote dirt sheets, it's all hearsay.
Right.
Or it's all people reporting, and they can report anything they want. To me, that just blows me away that he would send letters to him saying, shut down WCW. It is an embarrassment. That in itself, to me, would rile up Ted Turner enough to say, fuck you, we're going full bore. It's those letters. So, but whether they're true or not, I don't know. I was not privy to that.
Do you remember ever hearing whether or not Ted had a reaction to the Billionaire Ted skits, or, Nacho Man, Huckster, all that stuff?
No, not at all.
Do you remember there ever being discussions prior to this about trying to compete with Monday Night Raw head to head, or is this really the first time you had ever even heard it?
Yeah, this is the first time I'd ever even heard trying to compete with Monday Night Raw, and it worked.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that. Bischoff writes
it changed the business.
Bischoff writes in his book that when he first went back to his office at Titan Towers, after Ted had given the green light, he called Craig Leathers and David Crockett into his office, and they were just as shocked as Eric, not even believing him at first. When did you first hear the news? And I'm curious what a guy like Crockett would have thought of this at the time.
Well, I think David Crockett was a company guy and would have been shocked, but would have been ready to do whatever it takes. I heard about it after that. I was informed of it by Craig Leathers because I worked under Craig, and he told me what was going on. And told me that I believe he told me at that time that Eric would do the play-by-play, which didn't bother me one way or the other, because and then Eric talked to me about it. I'm going to be doing the play-by-play because I think you're out there too much, which what I agreed. So I found out about it through Craig. I don't think David had a problem with it at all. David, David was removed from his own company business. He was a part of Turner. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at all the Crockett family, Jackie, David, Francis, and Jimmy, David was the one that was most involved in the new company, more than the others. Jimmy was kind of behind the scenes, but David was involved more and longer than anybody else.